Here at Live Now from Fox, we actually have spoken to the Tulare County Sheriff, Mike Boudreaux, in an interview with Live Now's own Lexi Petrovich, talking about where the investigation goes from here, what questions are still outstanding, and whether they're close to getting anyone in custody for this. Remember, they have two suspects in mind as this very small community reels with this shocking murder. Let's listen.
Sheriff, we know that the victims range in age from as young as 10 months old, which is so difficult to even comprehend, to 72 years of age. So first and foremost, is there any update in the search for those suspects?
There's a lot of information that is coming into us with the Sheriff's Office, and we're so thankful to the communities that live here, the people that live in our communities. We're receiving many phone calls, as well as our forensics team is out still at this hour collecting hundreds of items of forensic evidence. And all of that is going to be incredibly powerful when it comes to making an arrest and prosecution, bringing these men to justice. And we do feel very confident in the fact that each day we are collecting more evidence, each day we're receiving more information, which helps us because we don't want the case to go stale by any means. And we're hoping for a quick resolution when it comes to the arrest of these men.
I think one of the most difficult things to wrap my head around right now is the fact that this was a 10-month-old baby and his teenage mom, just 16 years old, and it's still believed that they were trying to run from that shooting spree.
Mm-hmm. They were trying to run. We know that she lived in the house. She actually was outside the house, outside a fenced area, which she had to have jumped, and was attempting to escape with her small infant. I will tell you that it is very difficult to hear, but forensics is showing us that these two, the 16-year-old female, the young mother, and the 10-month-old child, were both shot at close range in the head, which means the suspects were standing over the top of them as they laid on the ground and as they executed them in the street.
It's so difficult to even think how someone could be capable of doing such a heinous thing like that. And you mentioned that your department had been called to this home previously. Can you talk a little bit more about what those calls were for? Is this an area that's prone to gang type of violence?
Well, and as we do, patrol deputies, they respond to calls for service. They identify homes who are gang homes. This home was considered a gang home. We knew gang members that lived in there. And we, the week prior, did a search warrant. We collected automatic weapons, and we collected 7 pounds of marijuana and some methamphetamine, and we arrested a gentleman who was on felony parole. Now, he was allowed to get out of the jail a few hours later. That's just how the California system works. But this is what I'll say. There are family members that live in the home that are not gang members at all. Just because you're related to a gang member doesn't make you a gang member. And so with the 72-year-old grandmother, she was not a gang member. Her son was. The 16-year-old daughter was not a gang member. And definitely the 10-month-old child was not a gang member. Also, one of the ladies that lived in the home that was a girlfriend to one of the men there, she was not a gang member. So the target was definitely not the people who don't claim gangs, but the message was very clear by either the cartel and or high-ranking gang structure or a certain gang. The manner in which they went in, they clearly were going in to slaughter an entire family to send a message.
There were some people that survived this attack as well. Were you able to get a lot of information from them who were there? And I know you said some of them were hiding in the midst of these terrifying moments.
There are some witnesses. There was 3 that survived, and they survived by hiding. Now, I got to be very careful as to what I'm able to tell and what I'm not able to tell. And the reason for that is that the bad guys listen to the news as well. We don't want anybody to know anything that we are looking into. We don't want evidence to be destroyed. But I will say that we received some valuable information from our witnesses.
The town of Goshen is a small town. How is the community responding to this, and how is your department doing?
The community is scared, and rightfully so. If this happened next door to my home, I live in Tulare County. If this happened next to me, I would be worried. I would be worried for my children. I would be worried for my family. But what I've reassured our community is that this was very isolated and very targeted. They were not in to come in and destroy a community. They came in targeting a family, and the purpose was to massacre this family. But you have people that are scared. So we've increased our patrol presence. We've made sure that there are phone numbers that people can reach out to. We're working with our local school districts so that counseling can be provided to the school children who need it. The men and women of this agency, to your point, I was out there that night. I actually stood over the top of this 16-year-old girl and looked at this small child in the road. And I can tell you, I'm a father. It was heartbreaking. Even now, I can tell you that I'm a bit emotional having to look at that. I've looked at a lot of things in my career, and we can't say that those things weren't as equally as terrible to see. But there were men there, women there, who were all mothers and fathers who saw this in the middle of the street, and they were impacted emotionally. And but what I can say is they went right into work mode. Professionals working hard, and they're focused on bringing these people to justice.
Well, you answered a lot of my other questions right there. I'm so sorry to hear what you had to see, what people in the community had to see. It must be so incredibly difficult to grasp those thoughts and to see those types of images. As far as what comes next in the investigation, when do you think we may be able to expect another update in this?
You know, that's a great question. And what I want to do is make sure that the community receives as much information as they can as things unfold. Sometimes these press conferences may not have as much information as everyone would like to, but when things change, I'm going to make sure to be out front that our community as well as the country is aware as to the status of this case. We have received overwhelming support from all over this country, and that's heartwarming. And so because of that, I want to make sure that when we have something change, that we will do a press conference. We anticipate one next week, maybe in the latter part of next week. But we also have to allow time for the men and women in this agency to do their work. That takes time. And, you know, it's not like CSI, an hour later we have the crime solved. But it's going to take time. I'm confident that they're doing a great job on this case. And as soon as I'm able to come out and give more information, even if it's a small amount, we'll give what we can so that the community and the public and our country is aware.
Yeah, and we certainly appreciate that transparency and any update in this case. Do you have any other last messages that you would like to share with the community and just with the world who's now watching any developments that are coming from it?
Well, always be vigilant in your surroundings. But one thing that I think is incredibly important, some of what we're learning in this case is that there are cartels involved. There are high-ranking gang structure, drug trafficking organizations that surrounds the slaughter of this family. And our unsecure borders is contributing to exactly what we've seen here today. What we're dealing with in California with a soft on crime approach from our governor is impacting what we're seeing in our communities. And for law enforcement to be able to provide public safety, but yet have soft on crime and unsecured borders from our Biden administration, this is how real it gets. And I would ask that our California governor take a strong look at revitalizing the death penalty. The California voters voted for the death penalty. We need that reinstituted so that we can send a clear message to people like this that you will receive severe justice. Killing a 10-month-old baby, your penalty needs to be death. And when it comes to the Biden administration, I would ask that they take a look at how our communities are in such danger with stories just like this. Mine's not unique to California. There are stories like this happening all over. And so it's important that both those men in leadership take a strong look at what's happening.
Yeah, thank you, Sheriff. We do really appreciate you being on and talking to us about this devastating story that we're continuing to follow. And one last thing, I know you had mentioned there was a $10,000 reward. Is that still the case, or has that amount been increased at all?
Later this afternoon, I anticipate it going up to $25,000. You can remain anonymous. You can send any information that you feel is important in this case to the sheriff's office. You don't have to tell us who you are. And to this afternoon, it'll be raised up to about $25,000.
Okay, thank you so much, Tulare County Sheriff Mike Boudreaux. We really appreciate you being on, and we're certainly hoping for some justice for these 6 victims in this massacre.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we will keep you updated if there are any more developments on whether or not the law enforcement officials out there catch these suspects that they have in mind. You heard there that they do plan on upping the reward for any information today from $10,000 to $25,000.